Welcome back to Burn the Ship, the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs to professionals to help you go all in on your business. I'm your host, Ezra Brown, and without further ado, I'm going to allow my guest to introduce himself.
Hey, Ezra. Alan Kopelman. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Nationwide Payment Systems. We're the payment guys that don't wear ties. And also the host of B2B Vault podcast. And thank you for having me on the show today, coming to you
Absolutely.
from Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Absolutely, Alan. Thank you for taking time out of your day to do this. It's very weird because I feel like we were one of our own in our own space. And then I have a phone call scheduled with this guy, and he's like, we're in the exact same world. And I'm like, wait, well, you telling me you do payments too, huh? But no, Alan, kind of tell us the story of how you got into nationwide payments, and then how just give us a story of how you became the entrepreneur you are, because it's obviously there was a journey in it, and you might not have done your own business before.
Yeah, so, my entrepreneur journey, goes back to when I was a kid. My dad owned clothing stores. My dad owned a clothing factory. My dad owned a monogramming business. So I grew up all around business. And then I decided I wanted to be a chef. So I went to culinary school. I became a chef. And my mentor, he used to tell me, he goes, when you're a chef, besides the cooking element of being a chef, you're also a business person and you have to really understand that because if you just want to be the guy cooking the food and coming up with creative menu items, that's one thing. But you have to really understand business and how to run a business, food costs, labor costs, how to buy, how to figure out like, oh, I need to buy a stove or an oven and what do you do? Oh, there's a three, get three bids. So, I took a lot of the, you know, lessons from that into the business world. And also, when I was a chef, I worked in hotels, country clubs. I worked for a consulting company, being a chef in a hotel involves dealing with, let's say, two or 300 employees that were underneath me running two restaurants, running a bar, a catering operation. So you're talking about, a multi-million dollar a month operation of food service going on and with a lot of employees. And I left that world, started my own restaurant and catering company, had a consulting company for a while. And then that kind of like was over because of a issue with a lease. Yeah, read your lease. And
Absolutely.
I always tell people that, but whatever the landlord decided he wanted to get crazy with the rent, and I wanted to expand, whatever. Just that just ended. One of my friends goes, "Oh, you should do credit card processing." I was like, "Credit card processing? How do you do that?" So, talked to a few companies, got started in the business. The company that I was working with, um, they were, I learned a lot from them. One of the things they taught me was, and a lot of people in this business don't get this part, it's a pennies business. And the reason it's a pennies business is that, you get this Schedule A from your credit card processor, and you need to make sure that every one of those line items that you're getting paid for, that you have profit built in. And, that's one aspect. And then, I was getting a lot of requests from merchants for things like a VAR sheet for a POS and for internet merchant accounts. And they didn't want to do any of that. So I decided one day a guy gave me a copy of the Green Sheet, which is a magazine for the payments industry. I don't know if you ever read the Green Sheet before. I sent you a link to one.
Only article that you sent me is the only one I've ever seen.
Well, it surprises me how many people in payments don't know about the Green Sheet. But that's the oldest payments magazine, and it's mostly information for people who are in the business, agents, ISOs. It contains a lot of great information, articles every month about
Right.
topical subjects. And I write a column in there called Street Smarts, which is articles to help sales agents with their business and concepts about business and things like that. So, so I read my first green sheet. I saw there was a bunch of ads, signed up, ended up contacting a bank called Imperial Bank, which is no longer around, and started signing up, left them, started signing up my own customers and with a business partner. And we grew, in the beginning, we're just selling terminals. And today, all of that switched, basically like the new sales organization, you need to be selling solutions and technology and not really focused on payments. And when somebody says
Hmm.
to me, they go, well, what makes your company different than other companies? Right. And I think every company should be think about how to be transparent, right? Because our biggest competitor is the internet.
Hmm.
Stripe, Square, PayPal, Shopify,
Anything that's easily accessible for them.
QuickBooks, right? And sometimes I
Absolutely.
talk to merchants and they're like, well, I'm using, Stripe and there's no customer service. There's, all types of issues. And well, I would say a lot of those platforms used to be super transparent, right? Stripe has been trying to go public and, or to sell. So they've definitely been starting to nickel and dime their customers. And a lot of processors try to do that. We've kind of take the approach that we want to only offer transparent pricing to our clients, which you probably, you're in the business. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's super important that you're, transparent to your clients. And we implore that, and if a partner or a potential partner can't do that, we don't do business with them
Right.
because we don't want to do business with, we don't want to put a client on a platform and then all of a sudden they get a bunch of junk fees, you know, and things like that. And you probably know, you look at a, I feel bad sometimes when I see a business owner and I see like a $200 junk fee on their statement
Hmm.
every month. I'm like, wow, what's going on? Like, a lot of people don't know how to read their statement.
Nobody does unless they've been taught.
Right. Or, even the simple concept. I had a guy once and he says to me, he goes, well, I don't want to tell you, I don't want to show you my statement. I said, okay, tell me a couple of things. He's like, okay, what do you want to know? How much do you do? How much did you do in credit cards last month? He tells me.
Hmm.
How much did you spend? And I said, just tell me the amount. He goes, oh, where is it? And I said, on the statement, there's a total. Tells me that number. What's your average ticket? Right? Tells me that. I told him all about his business. The guy's like,
Yeah.
how do you know that? And I said, 24 years of being in the business, we know based on your business type, your average ticket, how you sell, we can pretty much be spot on about where, how you're gonna, where your credit cards are gonna fall.
Right.
And a lot of businesses don't understand that. Some businesses, we say to them, hey, I mean, you've probably seen every kind of pricing thing that is offered, bill back pricing,
Tiered, flat,
flat
interchange
rate, cash
plus.
discount, surcharge, dual
Exactly.
pricing, interchange pass through. All of these are, complicated concepts to business owners.
Right.
A lot of times when we're working with somebody and they might be coming off of, let's say, three tier or some one rate that's really high,
Hmm.
they shouldn't deserve,
Right.
they didn't need. We'll tell them, we'll say, hey, let's put you on cost plus. Let's evaluate that after 3 months because sometimes a business, because maybe they're processing payments for, they're like a payment aggregator of sorts sometimes,
Right.
and they need to have like a set price. I say, yeah, after 3 months, we're going to be able to tell you how we can pin that price down for you,
Right.
and then put them on a flat rate, and more merchants today are opting for dual pricing and cash discount and passing the fee. And
Hmm.
sometimes business owners will say to me, well, do you think it's a good idea for my business? And I go, well, you have to kind of measure that. Like, what's your average sale look like? Um, do you wheel and deal with your customers over prices? Some businesses, it's set, but like I have clients that own camera stores, right? Believe it
Right.
or not, that's like the biggest like wheeling and dealing in a retail store that people do, or someone
Right.
selling musical instruments, right? People will come in and they go, "Oh, well, this store is selling it for this much," or a camera store. I can buy this camera at Amazon for $687. You want to sell it to me for 900? I want you to make, meet Amazon's price.
Right.
There's a lot of wheeling and dealing that goes on. You have to kind of measure, like, if you're a dry cleaner, is there a dry cleaner, a few blocks away? Are they passing the fee? And
You're right.
because that could affect your business where people say, oh, well, that guy's being cheap. And you also have to make sure you're training your employees. I mean, you
Right.
guys are, you guys are where you guys are up north, right?
Yeah, we're in Atlanta. Yeah.
In Atlanta. So, but people who are in New Jersey and New York, they pass laws over there. So there's a limit on what you can charge. And then or you have to have true dual pricing where you have the prices on the menu or on the
Yeah.
shelf that shows either the credit price and that you offer a discount for cash or both prices.
Right.
So, you have to know, that's why we advise people, hey, we want you have to follow the rules, right?
Yeah.
Of what there is to do that.
That and that's one of the really good things. Like you said, we kind of talk about it here, and especially I've only been in it for a year and a half, but it's something that I've kind of molded into that I've seen more of. But when you said it the other day too, it kind of put a light bulb kind of flickered. Is consulting. We're not in the sell. We're not here to sell you a product. I mean, we are, but we're more of the consulting side. We're ISOs. You know what I mean? We're not these big conglomerates that are going to get these walk-in 100 walk-ins a week. We got to go. We're out here lead generation, making sales. You know what I mean? And we got to
Right, but
consult
we're
you.
here to help the business owner. That's our ultimate thing. And I
Absolutely.
talk to a lot of business owners, like even like people who are in like startup mode, like they're going
Yeah.
at an incubator or they're taking like a class. And sometimes I talk to them and I go, sometimes I feel like it's Rodney Dangerfield from the movie Back to School, right?
Mm-hmm.
The teacher's up there saying all these concepts, right? And then I come in and I go, well, that's not how it works in the real world. And a lot of business owners don't understand that. And I try to explain to them, look, your corporate name doesn't need to match your doing business as name, right?
Right.
And and the reason for that is maybe you're in a business that's, let's say you're a smoke shop.
Yeah.
Maybe the bank that you like to do business with doesn't necessarily like smoke shops. So
Yeah.
just call it AK Incorporated,
Yep.
or AK Corporation or AK LLC,
Right. And then
right?
then your
And
corporate name, or then your other name can be Cloud9.
right, exactly. Because sometimes if you have a controversial doing business as name and you might not even be doing anything wacky, right? The bank might say, well, we don't want to do business with you. You're running a adult novelty store, or you're selling vape products and we don't agree with that, or
Right.
you're selling whatever. It doesn't matter. You have a bar. We don't like bars. So you have to be really, you have to think about that. And people, you know, they don't think about all the steps, you got to go through when you own a business, your
Mm-hmm.
federal tax ID number, file your beneficial owner stuff, the new thing from FinCEN.
Make sure you're active and compliant.
Right. Make sure your business is compliant. Like if you're going to have a website, that you have all the things that you need on your website, terms and conditions and privacy policy, return policies, shipping policies. How are you, letting people know, oh, when you buy this, oh, it takes how many days does it take to get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't think through like all these processes. And even if you
Yeah.
have a retail store, do you want to just let people come in and, say, I want my money back? Or do you want to say all sales are final? Or
Right.
you want to have limitations like, oh, you can exchange or get store credit within 7 days. You
Right.
have to really think about like your policies that you have in your business. And that's why I say, we do a lot more than just process a payment.
Absolutely.
We're also helping you with your business and maybe your, your understanding like your cash flow.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what would you say kind of how have y'all grown? What's helped you grow the business over the last 20, 24 years? What's been that kind of driver?
Be, you have to kind of decide like what kind of organization you're going to be. And,
Right.
we really started to take a very digital approach several years ago. And, we also switched up. So our first website was npsbank.com because we would go out and sell. Oh, who are you with now? My bank. So NPS Bank was a good name. Then, as things change, we developed another website, nationwidepaymentsystems.com. That's our main site. So we have a lot of other landing pages, nationwide payment, NPS pay, different things like that, because those are people are searching more on the internet. They're not going to the yellow pages. In the
Right.
beginning, is a, I'll tell you a funny thing. We paid for a yellow page ad. So yeah, to get listed in the yellow pages, you automatically. But if you want to have a little line in there, it used to be like $100 a month to have a one line. So we had a
Right.
line underneath Nationwide Payment Systems. It said, "We fix credit card machines." We got more phone calls from that than anything
That's
because
awesome.
back then, credit card machine was just to buy one was five, six, $700.
Right now you get them for nothing.
Now today they're a couple $100,
Mm-hmm.
like around $200 wholesale. So you don't have to charge people tons of money for this equipment. But back then they were a lot more expensive. So to
Right.
get one fixed, was important to be able to get these machines fixed. And we would get lots of people that go, "Oh, the bank wanted to sell me a new one. They wanted to put me in a lease for 49.99 for
Mm-hmm.
48 months. Can you fix this thing?" And we would
Right.
be like, "Yeah, if you sign up with us, we would just give you a new credit card machine. We'd take that one and fix it. We'll charge you $99 to fix it." They're like, "What? That's it?" And switch them over.
Right.
There,
Absolutely. It
you
was
go.
easier, a lot easier back then, I hear, than it is nowadays.
Well, I'm just saying it's just a different, different world. Today, you buy a terminal, let's say that's a terminal, it's basically a brick because all the serial numbers are controlled by whoever programmed it, and you can't reprogram, 99% of the equipment out there can't be reprogrammed. I would
Right.
say another shift is that, a lot, not every merchant, but a lot of merchants want to have point of sale systems today. And, that was the article that I sent you where I was talking
Yeah.
about, you know, what do we sell? What is the merchant buying? A lot of merchants are like, "Oh, I want to get an agnostic point of sale,"
Mm-hmm.
right? So, that's great when you think about it in the concept. Well, if I don't like this payment processor, I can just leave, right?
Right.
And go somewhere else. Well,
Right.
the concept of that has kind of changed because now these software hardware companies to give you a little. So in 2001, if somebody was had a hard had software, they built software to sell hardware, to sell software, and service contracts. That was their whole business. They didn't care
Right.
about payments. Let the payments guys worry about that.
Right.
Okay, fast forward to where we are now. So people who build software to get SaaS revenue, to get hardware as a service revenue. There's no little, very few have service contracts unless it's a huge system. And
Right.
then you have they want the payments revenue. So if you have an agnostic piece of equipment, I'll give you an example, Lightspeed, very
Yeah.
popular point of sale, and it was very popular point of sale, and the and the and they got bought. So they got bought, and then all of a sudden, we lost all our accounts, and everybody's got a process on Stripe, and
Mm-hmm.
all flipping out because the rates are higher. Right? You can't talk to them. You
Yep.
can't call Stripe and go, "Hey, customer service."
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's because
And so,
Lightspeed, there's nobody like me or you called. Lightspeed didn't contact somebody like me or you because they didn't know whoever bought it, even if it's controlled by publicly traded or anything like that. They didn't know somebody like us to go in and put an API that could, where they could get some mailbox money or that, it's rates a little lower for your customers.
right. Well, they just, I'm sure you can talk to Stripe if you're doing millions of dollars. There's somebody
Yeah,
might call you on the
absolutely.
phone, but for regular merchants, they just have to deal with the regular rates that are out there. And
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden your agnostic software is not agnostic. Now you're tied to this company. Now you're tied to their payment company. So, it's a lot, a lot out there. There's a lot, there's so many choices for merchants today,
Right.
and even like Congress, they were raking Visa and MasterCard over the coals recently. And I was sitting there watching this thing and I was like, they're asking them about rung up debt. You're talking to the wrong guys. Talk to the banks. They're the ones who are letting people run up all the debt,
Right.
not Visa and MasterCard. I mean, listen, I have my take on how Visa and MasterCard can be fixed a little bit, but that's for a
Yeah.
whole nother
That's a whole.
discussion.
That's its own spiel right
But
there.
here they were complaining about Visa and MasterCard, and they got businesses in there. Some guy that owned a grocery store complaining about his rates. I'm like, okay, how come PayPal, Stripe, Square, QuickBooks, Shopify, how come these companies aren't part of the discussion? Their rates are way higher than what we charge
I'm glad they're not
merchant.
though. It helps me out day to day.
Right, exactly. But I'm just saying, like, no, but I'm just saying, like, how come Congress isn't like talking to those companies?
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Because then if you're gonna surcharge it back to those people, if they want to cover their butt on their fees they're paying, they have to charge 4%.
yeah, I
Depending
believe,
on how they're
yeah,
depending on how they're taking their cards. You know what I mean?
right. I
Because they're
believe,
taking
like,
3.5% on an invoice.
yeah, no, but I'm just saying, like, they're not talking about those companies. What rates are they charging
Yeah.
and complaining to them because, they're charging rates too. I mean, one advice I tell merchants all the time, like, never lease equipment. Now, if you got something super, there's other options out there, hardware and software as a service. Put it on your credit card, pay cash for it, take out a line of credit. You know, I just tell people avoid leasing. You know,
Absolutely. Because then
if you
it
can,
ties you into a contract somewhere where you don't need to be bound to. Because then
right.
that rate can go way up there. And I see it all the time. Ours, my biggest one I see all the time is Regions Bank around here just be getting people out egregiously gouging them. So I look and I'm like, who uses Regions Bank here? Who's processing their stuff through Regions? And then people raise their hand. I'm like, let me see your statement. Every one of them's been 3.8 or higher the last like five I've
Right.
seen.
But people trust their bank, so that's what happens. The other
Absolutely.
The one thing in this business that like aggravates me is PCI compliance, right? What's one thing we do? When merchants sign up, we're like, listen, you're going to get an email. You need to complete it. If you don't understand the questions, you take 10 minutes, you call the number, and you'll get it finished,
Hmm.
And if we see somebody and they have a non-compliant fee on their statement, because we'll see it on our reporting, right? Oh, no
Right.
compliance
Yeah,
fee,
yeah.
which we don't get any money from. So
But they still have to pay $60 for it, 120
no,
bucks
so
for it,
we'll
whatever it is.
contact the merchant and go, hey, you need to complete this. You need to complete this. Needs to be completed. We try to do it in the beginning. And
Hmm.
I saw a merchant the other day, they got charged $350 monthly for PCI non-compliance. They just have a terminal.
God, man, that's so crazy.
I mean,
That's
there's some
crazy.
companies out there, they're the fee keeps going up, over time.
Right, because we do all our PCI compliance for our people, or walk them through how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. We just walk them through. We just say, call the number. It used to be a lot easier. All the questions were the same. So
Right.
it's easy. But now the PCI companies have it where it's rotating. So it's
Yep.
kind of hard. That's why I just tell the merchant, call up on the phone, boom, 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 and then they'll just walk you through it. You'll be done in less than 10 minutes.
Right. No, absolutely.
And then
And
you
then
don't have to
Alan, what would you?
bother with that.
Right. No, that makes sense because we hear it like people be like, we need to worry about this. Like, no, we got it. We got the girls in the back will do it because we have our own customer service team in the back over here that does everything for us. But what would you say has been like? What was the hardest thing for you, especially in the payments world? It's not something that I guess would say is easy to go into. It's not an easy sale. You know what I mean? It's something where if you're good at sale, if you're good at this, you can be good at any sales. I believe if you can sell credit card processing, you can kill it anywhere.
I mean,
Um,
listen, selling is people ultimately they buy from me or they buy from you, right?
right.
They buy from people they like. And,
Yeah.
part of you have to, in the beginning, I wore out a lot of shoes going door to door. But then I said, like I said, we started picking up more with the digital marketing, Facebook, being active on Facebook, LinkedIn. I have over 18,000 connections and followers on
Damn.
LinkedIn. Um, we started doing a podcast a couple of years ago, and we've gotten phone calls from that podcast many times. Hey, I was looking up on YouTube, high risk, saw your podcast about high risk, or saw
Yeah.
your podcast about this or that. No, can I talk to you about my business? Or,
Right.
so we always, so, just you got to put yourself out there. And one of the things, you're a lot younger than me. So I'm 64. You look young. You're younger than me.
25, 25.
So when you look at the buying patterns today of just, buying in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it, I look at, and then for merchant, we'll talk about merchant services and then regular stuff. For merchant services, I see the age group 45 to 40 and under. They're going to let their fingers do the walking on the Google. Okay. So that's why it's important that everybody, I've said to you, if you're just a sales rep, you should have your own private website so that you can promote yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And I think it's really good advice, to do that. Another thing I tell every business owner, whether you're in payments or whatever business you're in, don't have a Gmail address. Have your name
Business.
and your domain and a real .com. And you don't have to have a $10,000 website. You can get somebody to make you a website for 500 or 600 bucks.
Right.
You know, one page has your picture on there, whatever, tells what you do, a few credit card machines, a point of sale, whatever, little form, your
Right.
contact information, so that you become relevant, right? Not the company you work for. Ultimately, people buy from you.
Right. 'Cause you want them to follow you even if you're not
And
there. You know what I
and
mean?
no, but I'm just saying now, if somebody's searching for credit card processing in 404
Yeah. Absolutely.
Atlanta, maybe you're going to pop up somewhere because you're active and you have, your Google My Business page linked to your phone number. I can't tell you how many times people, you know, I've given them a business card and I'll get a call 2 years later. Hey, we have a need, or I just
Right.
opened a new business. And I used to work at a company and you did the credit card processing for them. That happens all the time. Your referrals start to really flow after you have 50 to 100 clients, you know. But, the COVID kind of set in place, like this whole, like, oh, let me go online and buy everything from Amazon, and let me
Mm-hmm.
buy, from wherever I can buy stuff online and do an, a pickup, curbside pickup, an in-store pickup, get it delivered to my house or get it delivered to my business.
Right.
And a lot of small businesses need to think about that because they're not into the digital age, you know? And that's one thing we try to help businesses with all the time. It's like, man, you don't have a website. You really, you need a website, you know? And either you're selling one product on there or you're selling all your products on there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And people have to kind of figure that out and figure out the services that their customers want. It's crazy.
Right.
It's like food delivery, right?
Right.
People will pay like an insane extra price to have somebody drive their food to their
An
house.
extra $12 to get a sandwich taken to
Yeah,
your
for
house. That
like
was $8.
DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats. I just saw the other day Grubhub got sued for like more than $100 million for some for like not the way things were priced out,
Right.
all this stuff. They only have to pay like 40 million because apparently they don't have the money.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
But
Of course they don't. And with that being said, because that does make a lot of sense. Because I'd never really thought about it in that sense of kind of marketing myself with that website. That makes a ton of sense because I do Facebook. Post stuff here and there for my people to see. But really, I'm a lot on the phone. I do a ton of networking here, like locally. I go to a group on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Friday mornings. where I'm speaking in front of 30, 50 people that I try to get referrals out of. And then you got to have the one-to-ones with them. The biggest thing is creating the relationships. Like you said, once you get that 50 to 100 people, they're going to refer you out, especially if you take care of them, because then they like and trust you. It's their money, you know. Whenever you're doing, me and you deal with their money, so it's a very tender subject to even get in the door with them. So they got to like you a little bit to even allow you in there, and that does make sense. And then that gives you that more marketability and more visibility is with that website. So me and you'll get together more after this podcast. I want to talk. I definitely want to pick your brain just a good bit on the payment side as well.
It's important, like any business you have, like, or if you're just a sales guy, whatever you're selling,
Yeah,
to just have your own, I have AlanKopelman.com. It just tells about Alan Kopelman.
right.
The Nationwide Payment Systems is my company, so that's my website. And I tell even my sales reps, have your own identity. And it always bothers me when people give me their email and it's like Gmail, Yahoo,
At
Gmail,
hotmail.com, I just got one of those.
Hotmail.
I just scheduled a meeting with one of those, and I said, it says at Hotmail. Like, that's, so you guys like 45 years old, been in business for 10 years, 10 plus years, and he's using
Right,
Hotmail.
because that's old school. That's how, people don't think about it. And I tell a lot of sales reps that are in our bit in this business, and I'm like, man, you pay, what is it, $10 a month? How much money are you making? Right? Invest some money invest in yourself, you know?
Right. You
And
gotta you
people,
gotta buy the ingredients before you can make a pie.
right. No matter what you're doing let's say, it doesn't matter whether you have a pizza shop, a food truck, whatever it is, you need to have marketing. You need to have you need to have a digital presence. People don't know, like Google My Business, that page, the Google business page. It used to be Google My Business. Now it's just Google Business. Everybody
Right.
should have a Google business page. Because if somebody's looking for Alan Kopelman, they put in my name, they're going to pop into my Nationwide Payment Systems Google business page.
Right. Because if they'll see your name, and it's probably got Nationwide Payment Systems inside of that too.
Right. Well, I have my name mentioned in the page, so it
Right.
should pop in there. So that way,
Absolutely.
someone remembers your name, and they're going to go, "Oh, Ezra Brown." Boom, right? They're gonna find you. They're gonna find your page, and not go to. They're gonna go, "I can't remember where he worked," or they call the company up and just get a random person on the phone.
Right.
You got to protect your
Environment.
huh?
Environment. Protect your
Well, you
environment.
gotta, you're doing a ton of networking. You want to make sure like people have like when I used to do networking, I always made on my business card said direct phone. I didn't really want them calling the office.
No.
At the beginning of time, we didn't really have the office staffed. We had an answering service. So
Right.
direct. So they knew my phone number, right?
Absolutely.
Call this number, you know, and you train people like, hey, I'm available, So it's important in business to have, someone asked me one thing, like, tell me some important things I should do in my business, right? Answer your phone. Number one. I don't care what business you're in. Answer the phone. If you're not
Mm-hmm.
answering your phone, you're just creating problems for yourself.
And it goes a long way answering the phone, man. Just eat. I always say eat the frog. Like, look, man, it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad.
Yeah, I just did a article that's in Forbes Business about time management that just got published the other day.
That's
Eat the
awesome.
frog was one of the topics in there. I
Yeah.
talk about the 5-second rule. It's a great article to read about. Time management is super important. I don't care what business you're in,
Yeah.
super important to manage your time. One of the most important tools that I instituted for myself a few years ago was I got a booking software and I link that to my Outlook calendar, and that's how I control my day through
That's
that.
awesome.
People want to talk to me, I go, hey, go make an appointment here. Click here, make an appointment. Like,
Yep.
or text, like if you text me, then I'm gonna tell you like, hey, I'll call you back in 10 minutes. I got like
Yep.
3 texts while we're recording the podcast.
Absolutely. And I was lucky enough. I got to walk into that type of situation where it's already kind of there. We have a very good CRM that kind of runs it for us, tells us to follow up with them. Like, it'll pop in like once somebody schedules a time with me, it'll tell me, hey, follow up with this person in 7 days. Or is this somebody that you need to follow up? Is it A pocket, B pocket, C pocket? C pocket, you're not really going to talk too much unless it's a good referral partner. which typically is probably not going to be. But you get with the gist, and
No,
it'll
but
tell
I'm
you
saying
how
it's a
to.
good way to control your schedule, like when you're trying to get people to do a Zoom meeting with you or going out and meeting them in person. You put it on your calendar, it sends them a reminder. Hey, Alan's showing up at 3 o'clock. We have a meeting at 3 p.m. From
Mm-hmm.
3 p.m. I always tell people, sometimes when I'm doing a merchant meeting, because I see how I got dragged on meetings. I go, oh,
Yeah.
let's have a meeting, 15 minutes. And then obviously, if it's going well, the meeting's going to be a half an hour.
Yep.
But you just have to you have to think about like how to control your time. Doesn't matter what business you're in, everything. Even if you have a retail store, there's a schedule. You're scheduling your employees, you're
Yeah.
scheduling your hours. No matter what, if you're in the sales business, the calendar and Zoom is like two great tools to be using together.
Absolutely. And then Alan, what would you say you could do? Speaking of for time and kind of how you've angled your time, what would you say is going to be something that you're going to do in your free time? Say you're done, you're nationwide payments, you sold out, did all your stuff, or retired. What is going to be? What are you looking forward to do with your time?
Travel a little bit more. My daughter lives in Iowa. Spend more time up there with her. Um, you know, when I look at as a business owner and I think about like, hey, should I be retiring anytime soon? I think you got to look at people are living way longer than they lived before,
Right.
and I think that you have to think about like other things besides. I have a friend of mine who 8 years ago decided he was going to exit this business as he was turning about 66 years old. And
A
then
lot of meat on the
he
bone.
goes, you know what? He goes, I'm not exiting. He goes, I'm closing my office. I'm liquidating all my furniture, all my equipment, getting rid of it all. Going to put everything, figure out what files I need to keep, you know, and put that all in my house somewhere. And then I'm going to hire one person to work part time for me. Actually, the person started at full time. He had about
Yeah.
6 people in the office. He kept one person, and he goes, "I'm gonna have this one person," and that person like pared all the way down to basically one part time person and then one and an answering service, and he's kept the business going because you're going to get referrals, you're going to get more business, you're going to get you know I want to do more consulting things in the future. I want
Right.
to do get some board seats maybe on some startup companies and work with them and help them grow their business with my insights into payments. I mean, I think there, people if I'm gonna live 90, I don't want to sit around for the next 20. I don't want to sit around for 20 years. I want to remain active and have my active brain thinking and doing stuff. And
Absolutely.
whatever, maybe I'll become a speaker, speak at events and things like that, in the
I'm sure you've done
future.
it a ton being in payments.
No, I love the business. It's a great business. I tell everybody, it's a great business that offers residual income. You can make your own schedule. But like I said, what makes one person better than the other person? Just answering the phone. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing is you really need to make sure that you're keeping up with the latest technology because technology is what's going to be the difference maker. I have an article coming out, and it's is software the new sales company, right?
Yeah.
Software because that's what everybody wants today.
Absolutely, that is exactly what they look for. I see that all the time because that's why we lose people to like a QuickBooks or a say House Call Pro or just whatever it is for that industry. Titan, Titan Mechanical or whatever it is. Titan Mechanical, whatever it is, the big HVAC one.
Oh, Titan, Service Titan
Service
for
Titan,
people for auto repair. They use
it.
Mitchell, and they just partnered with Stripe.
Yep,
They never
which
had
is
payment.
crazy, but
Uh,
and it's
it's
those people right there.
I look at Toast and I say to my sales reps, I go, you guys need to look at Toast. Look at Toast. I go, do you think people buy Toast and think about the rate? they just pay the rate whatever Toast tells them to pay. Sure, if you're
Right.
doing a certain amount of volume, you can probably negotiate with them a little bit. But for
Yeah.
the most part, they're into a lot of smaller type restaurants. And those restaurants they're gonna pay, the 2.79 and 10 cents that they charge, and there's
And
nothing
their $500 a monthly fee on their software.
right. They're gonna pay,
Yeah.
but that's because people want solutions. They're not that concerned about price. Some
Yep.
businesses are concerned about price, and you just have to kind of figure that out, but people will pay for the right solution.
Absolutely. No, that's definitely it. All right, now, and the last question I have for you is, you burnt the ship. You went all in on your own business. You left somewhere where you were stable.
No guts,
You
no
probably,
glory.
yeah, exactly. But what what was the emotion when you did it? Because everybody's got a different one. Everybody, you're scared, you're excited. What was that for you when you burnt the ship?
I think when you're going to go into business, you just got to say, I'm going all in. You got to take in your brain, I need to make X amount of money, and you got to be committed to go out there and just bust your butt because
Hmm.
it's not going to come to you, right? You got to go get it.
Absolutely.
And when you're going to start a business, I had a young man the other day called me on the phone. It's like 19 years old, and he thinking about getting into payments.
Yeah.
And he was talking to me about it. And he sold a couple of merchant accounts through like a friend, and like referred him the business, and he's getting a little residual. The guy's saying, "Oh, you should go full time," and I'm like, "Dude, where you go?" I said, he used to tell me, I go, "Where do you live? At home or do you have an apartment?" He goes, "I live at home." I go, "Dude, this is the time. Like, just go for it." I mean, you
You
have to
can't
look at
screw up
your
if you're still at the house.
yeah, you're still at the house. I mean, you don't want to have a huge nut. Any business, you just got to know, like, oh, what's the nut I need to crack, right? So that I can live.
Right.
How much do I need to make 2 grand a month, 3 grand a month, 4 grand a month? What is that number? And how much money do I have in my bank account right now to burn? And how
Right.
long is it going to take me to get from A to B where I'm paying my bills? Once you're paying your
Right.
bills, once you're paying, it's like a restaurant, they know, oh, once we serve 50 people, right? We paid the rent, we paid the utilities, we paid for our employees, everything over that, we're making profit. So you got to know that for any business that you start. And then you just got to suck it up. No guts, no glory is one of my sayings. And you just got to go for it. And sometimes, you might suffer. There was times when I started my business where I had like one full-time employee and one part-time employee, and I had to pay them and not take a check until other income came in that I was waiting on.
Right.
And I had to wait sometimes a month or two, but I was willing to do that and run that risk. It's all about, you got to know your numbers.
Right.
If you're not a numbers person, become one. You don't know how
Hmm.
to use QuickBooks, learn.
Right. Yeah,
And
absolutely, and that's awesome, Alan. Thank you so much for joining us today on Burn the Ship, and that's what look y'all heard it here, guys. No gluts, no glory. Burn the ship, folks. Burn the ship.